talk about another important piece of news which is related to Made in Pharma. Now, the Drug Controller General has written to World Health Organization saying that linking Indian-made cough syrups to the death of children in Gambia was a premature conclusion that adversely impacted the image of India's pharmaceutical products. Now, yesterday, the government said that cough syrups manufactured by Made in Pharma that allegedly led to the death of 66 children in Gambia was of standard quality. Timsy, could you please take us through the highlights of this letter, because this is very important. It comes in the wake of those deaths in Gambia.
Well, on 13 December, Drug Controller V.G. Somani has written to WHO stating that the statement issued by WHO way back in October was unfortunately amplified by global media. In a 3-page letter, Somani has shared that Indian government has got independent tests done for the 4 cough syrups which were under question by WHO for alleged deaths in Gambia. Somani has shared with the WHO that the test results of samples clearly show that diethylene glycol and ethylene glycol were not found in the samples. Thus, and I quote, "There is no direct causal relationship between cough syrup consumption and deaths of children in Gambia." WHO's premature conclusion was unfortunately amplified by global media for building a wrong narrative against India's pharmaceutical products. India has been committed to rigorous monitoring and oversight to ensure the highest standards of manufacture or in quality control of drugs and cosmetics. End of quote. Now, to talk on this further, we are now joined by Professor Y.K. Gupta, Vice Chairperson of Standing National Committee on Medicines, who was also made the chair of the expert committee to investigate the allegations raised by WHO, alleging Made in Pharma manufactured cough syrups leading to deaths in Gambia. A very warm welcome, sir. Sir, let me begin by asking you, where are we on the investigations? Now that the Drug Controller General has written to WHO sharing the test results, which show that the cough syrups were not carrying any DEG and EG, what do you have to say? Where are we exactly?
Thank you very much for flagging this issue. So I will just quickly brief you on the entire issue as follows. There was a communication from WHO to DCGI that the samples, 23 samples, 19 samples were collected from different places of cough syrup, and then they said that their testing laboratory of WHO found that there is an impurity of unacceptable limit of diethylene glycol and ethylene glycol. Number 2, it is known that these 2 products, ethylene glycol and diethylene glycol, are known to be nephrotoxic to the extent that they can be fatal. However, the alert was issued by DG WHO on the same day that there has been, if these impurities were found, which could be possibility of relating this to the possible death of 60 children. Now, this has created a furor, and then the media all started writing that 60 deaths or X number of deaths in children were because of diethylene glycol and ethylene glycol in these samples of cough syrup which were made by Made in Pharma in India. The issue was, government made a committee, and our committee repeatedly asked CDSCO, DCGI to get the following information from WHO, so as we can arrive at the causality assessment. Number 1, the samples which out of 19 samples, 4 were found to have these 2 impurities, and they were made, as letter mentioned, they were made from Made in Pharma. What about the results of the remaining 19? That's number 1 question. Number 2 question was that these medicines, cough syrups, were given to those subjects which were said to have been suffering from E. coli infection. And the working hypothesis which WHO mentioned is the E. coli infection and confounded by this syrup. It does not say that E. coli can also cause death in extreme cases, particularly when the body's immunity is low and children are malnourished. Number three, that these samples, the control samples, we were asking that what would be, how these drugs were given, what was the dose given, what was the duration, and what was the hospitalization condition. However, we could not get these information. In absence of these information, it is impossible to arrive at a conclusively what is called as a cause and effect relationship, causality assessment. WHO later informed that the causality assessment, WHO does not do the causality assessment, and it is to be done by the Health Authority of Gambia. We did not get information yet. And therefore, and later, recently, we got the information of the test report of the control samples of these 4 preparations and the ingredients, that is ethylene glycol and the propylene glycol samples, which was in that. And what was report says, all the 4 samples of the cough syrup control samples, the test reports say that they comply with the pharmacopoeia description. That means all the ingredients were within that. And that is why the remark was they meet the standard, or they were of standard quality. We specifically looked for the concentration or the presence of ethylene glycol and diethylene glycol. Both were mentioned as not detected.
So as you said that all the 4 controlled samples were found of standard quality. Don't you think it is now the responsibility of WHO to issue a clear instruction that the products manufactured by Maiden Pharma are safe so that the company can find its feet back? And similarly, it will clear the image of Indian-made pharma products globally as well, because post that the image of Indian pharma products was hit badly. And not to forget, as you rightly said, the test results are very clear. WHO was unable to actually come back to the questions raised by your panel and DCGI. So the onus now lies on WHO. Why is Indian government not asking WHO to come back?
I agree with you, and I will add to that, that not only the samples were found to be of standard quality, but there is no presence of DG and DEG in these samples as estimated, reported in the report. Secondly, we also went into the detail asking them what is the level of sensitivity, what is called as a detection level, LOD, and also we looked for the certificate of analysis. We also went to the extent of looking for from what was the source of propylene glycol, and we traced that source, and we also looked for the letter of analysis. So now, to conclude that, it is very difficult to say that this is not present in this. Now, we asked from WHO also through the CDSO that why not to get those samples which were shown to have presence, and then it can be redone. Now, and therefore, it is a mystery. I would not say what to be done, but it is the mystery that what was reported, was that correct? So, but the analysis report of these 4 samples and the ingredients, propylene glycol, there does not seem to be the causative factor of this. There are several other issues that we need to get it before we do the causality assessment. And that is something which is very important.
Sir,
And yes, please.
So what is the conclusion that you have given in your expert committee's view, sir? My last question, because you are also supposed to close the committee's terms of reference with a concluding report.
Committee is has finalized the report, I would say, except some more information which is required. We are still waiting for information of a clinical information scenario so as to do the causality assessment. As far as the absence of these toxic adulterant or toxic substances presence, the report from the government laboratory in India does not indicate, and therefore conclusively that this could not be the cause of death. Cough syrup intake cannot be the cause of death in these cases. However, we have recommending that we need to strengthen the system for different reasons. That is, and also I would just say here, we also like to mention that the company, the industry, Maiden industry, was immediately stopped, was asked to stop the production. But that was mainly, purely for violation of GMP norms. There are several GMP norms, and also as an abundant precaution, they were stopped.
All right. Thank you, Dr. YK Gupta, for weighing in on this important piece of news. And thank you, Timsi, for sharing with us the details of this letter. Moving on. India's popular tourist state Goa has received its first ever Greenfield International Airport. Prime Minister Modi had inaugurated the first phase of this new terminal that is bigger, livelier and more advanced. CNBC-TV18's Madiha Mujawar gets us a sneak peek from inside the new airport.